Feel powerful. Don't feel unimportant. Very important if you want to achieve anything in this life, if you want to achieve freedom, that you first empower yourself or enable the ability for you to empower yourself. That means surround yourself with the right people, the right foods, you name it, right? You want to feel powerful, not just literally in the case of health, but mentally, in the case that you feel like you're doing enough. And a lot of people may not produce content like me. A lot of people may not write books or do presentations or talk to certain people and be in certain spaces. It doesn't matter. All that you see right now through that screen of yours is an illusion. Okay? Let me repeat that. Everything you see right now through that screen is an illusion. That's not to say I'm not real. It's to say I'm not really in your real reality. Your reality is something that's around you. And even that may, some people may question, say, well, that's not so real. But it's certainly more real than this. And the reason why is because if I was there with you, I would be able to talk to you. I would be able to see you. You would be able to sense me more sensefully, rather than just through the screen, which limits our nature and our capacity to communicate. It may expand our opportunity to communicate, but it is not the nature of communication, at least for however long communication has always been used. Naturally, it has always been used through the voice of mouth, through the eyes. Now, why is this important? Why is that important? It's to say that just because you're not producing online content does not mean that you are not doing the great work, the one great work, the ability, the effort of educating people, of changing the world, of freeing ourselves from slavery. That's a process you can take on any front. And it's better that people take it on multiple fronts. And it's better that people are not always taking one route or one way of doing things. Always. And it's always better to get people to critically think, to do something different, to be yourself. And that within itself is the power that you have. Because I would find my power in language, in use of knowledge through my creative efforts, finding out what I have and then looking at what else is out there so I can integrate the two. But without the me, I cannot have that because I need to include me into the picture. I can't undo that. It's inevitable because by your nature you have to include yourself. It's like saying, well, I want the kidney of the body, but I don't want the stomach. Well, it's like, without the stomach, the kidney won't work. Without the kidney, the stomach won't work. These things have to work together because it's in the nature of the transaction, the interaction, which you have on a day-to-day basis with everything you consume, everything that you essentially give, everything that you take, which is essentially every form of action. You say you take someone's rights, or you take an action. One is a form of stealing, the other is not, because just because you're taking does not mean it's stealing. Every day we're taking something, and we just need to understand what we're taking. In the same way, we understand what we're giving every time we take. Okay, because every time we take, we're giving. Every time we give, we take. We have to recognize that and where things are going. So when we look at the world and we say, where are things going? The question we can best ask ourselves is, where are we going? Because only we can truly know where we are going, most naturally. So, if we are going to give people back their own power, we cannot feel like we are powerless. Because how are we supposed to give them power? And if we say, well, we should just give up and say, oh, well, the power systems that be, the people who have power, are just going to do what they want to do, well, that makes us even more powerless. It literally degrades our ability to be more powerful, which requires what? Well, let's see. If it requires power to push a boulder up a hill, what do I need? I need energy, I need strength, I need charisma, whatever. Enough power to get the boulder up the hill. You say, well, why charisma? Well, you need other people to push that boulder up the hill, right? You need the ability to appeal. You need the ability to meet everybody, to say, yeah, just because these are some people in Washington or some politicians that I don't like, they're still a human being at heart. You need to recognize their inner power so you can also utilize your inner power and then find out what the real power in this world is. It's not politics. It's not the titles. It's not the images. It's not the egos. It's not what you see on the screen. The power is in the human soul. Maybe you may say that's spiritual, but it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. It is in the individual. It's within yourself, which is not limited to online usage. Never was and never will be, because it's all a man-made illusion. Okay, no matter how helpful it can be for our natural reality, I will take breaks accordingly to the times that I see my nature needs it most, for me to be my natural self, away from technology. Because being away from technology can help me retouch with nature. Isn't that interesting? But yet, why do we use technology? Probably to assist nature. So we can cause counterintuitive interactions if we don't understand what it's doing to us, if we're not conscious. And some people say, well, you need a balance. It's not about balance, okay? It's more about order, which then creates a natural balance when you have natural things that are being balanced. You can't balance an unnatural thing if it's not meant to be there. Like, I'm going to balance this every time I touch this poison. Like, no, you're not going to balance that. You're not going to do it at all, because you know it's going to poison you. Right? You're not going to touch it. There's no need to balance something that doesn't belong. Hence abolitionism, right? Get rid of that which does not belong. Abolish it. Just like we did with slavery in the 1800s. So we are already powerful, and recognizing, the slave is powerful is what got them off the plantation. They started singing songs, they started, doing all these things to inspire them, to give themselves some motivation, give themselves the power, and then soon they actually had the power to do what they had to do, which is what they wanted to do. And all it took was just gaining that power over and over time, right? And you may say, well, we're losing our power, we're losing our rights over time. Well, again, we don't need to dwell on that problem. We know it's there, okay, we recognize it, we'll recognize the solution is gaining power. That's all you can do. As you realize humanity needs to evolve and cannot be enslaved and should not be enslaved and needs to be evolved. As I put in my other video, it's time for humanity's evolution. And I think it's a really important video because you can focus on the evolution, you can focus on the slavery aspect, you can focus on every one of these topics. And that makes you a powerful speaker because most people are not speaking about it today. But just because most people are not speaking about it does not also mean you have to speak about it. Although you might feel morally compelled, naturally. And so that's the deal. You have to do what really comes natural to you. Now, you may say, well, that's relativistic. There's requirements for what we want in this world. Okay, well, what we want in this world, there is still an individual input. And then you say harm. Well, that's pain, that's empathy. There's still a human input. Oh, there's laws, natural laws. That requires reason. There's still a human input. We are still the filter of our reality. These words are still just interpretations of that reality. And we cannot forget that everything is essentially integral as such. So, it isn't about the internet, it isn't about the image, it isn't about the ego, okay? The personal life, most important, There'll be times I talk to people and they want to do collaborations with me and I say, no, focus on real life. It's most important. It's more important than anything, right? And we create things out of necessity, but we shouldn't have to, okay? We create things out of necessity, like I need to do this because the government tells me to, right? This classic example of order following. And we create them thinking that, it's necessary we do this, but we shouldn't have to do that. And there's a better way of doing it. And so recognizing our powers to say, well, we have the power to do something bad, we're going to choose to do something good instead with that power. Choosing what to do with our will, choosing what to do with our choices, right? And we got to be worried with this word that we call necessity. Because many times we may say certain things are necessary when how necessary is it? Why do we call it necessary? A glass of water, as simple as glasses for the eye. And those are not very simple things, although people think they're simple. There's a lot that goes into them, the manufacturing across the world, transport, the idea, the people coming together to make that happen. There's a lot that goes on within everything that we have created in this life. And there's some of us that want to create, and there's other people who want to destroy. And we recognize that the two are actually integral, when we understand time and place, that of which is meant to belong. Again, hence abolitionism. So, we should all be living our lives, having fun and community. We should not be going online, putting out videos. This is just more reason for you not to put out videos if you don't want to, but it's not to say that you shouldn't, because I want people to get involved. But I did not say you had to get involved one way or another. Okay, I'm going to give you options. I'm going to say, hey, you can collaborate here or there. You can do this or that. You don't have to join meetings. You don't have to, produce content. You can have a yard sign, You can wear a t-shirt, You can have a conversation, hand out brochures. You can go to a festival, right? There's all these bunches. You can make a clips channel, a narration, a podcast. Or you could not do any of that and find another means of change because other people have done that. Right? Or you may say, well, because other people have done that, I don't need to do that. I'm not good enough at it. You are degrading your power. And because you recognize, oh, well, I'm not as good as them, that's a good place to start, actually. Because you can then improve yourself, wanting to do what they're doing, if not better, because you're an outsider observer. You're probably looking at me like, I can do a lot better. There's people who say, hey, you got to change your background, your lighting, your microphone. I'm like, I agree. But it depends, and it depends on the time and place, and there's different reasons, right? But I learn and I improve, and I noticed I've improved over the years, even unconsciously, just by simply putting in the practice. Life is a practice, and the more you practice it, it becomes a practice. Where that practice, it's like a medicine, people want it. They look at it, they say, well, wow, I want to learn how to utilize this practice. And so they start practicing with the practice, and soon now they have their own practice to serve to other people. Isn't that interesting? Currency for profession, profession for currency. It takes money to make money, right? So very important ideas, and I talk about this in my second book, of course, which goes into, well, all of life. But we should all be living our lives, like I said, and we shouldn't have to produce content, right? Just because the world needs that content. No, that's not actually what we need. So don't feel bad that I have to produce content saying, oh my gosh, we're enslaved and you're not, because I shouldn't really have to do that anyways. Again, it's all an illusion, and I'm only making that content to say it is an illusion. And I'm saying that government is illusion and slavery and all these things, or illusions that keep us controlled and away from our power. So we're only tearing down what's not supposed to exist, meaning that you don't really have to make something exist, unless you want to, in the case of helping that change occur. Which is where you can come in, of course, which is recognizing human influence. Like, wow, we're hurting ourselves here, and we're helping ourselves here. But we need to understand which one we're actually contributing to. And it's just those subtle things that people don't understand. Like, wow, okay, by every time I participate in an election, every time I pay this tax, I'm contributing to violence. And a lot of people do not know that. Really simple things. Does that really take a genius to talk about online? And you can spend a lot of time, you can make animations and all that, right? I mean, there's so much you can do with just simple, basic knowledge. And that's what makes you powerful. Just think about it. Sometimes the simplest songs, the simplest paintings, people are like, why does this get famous? Why does this get big? The simplest ideas can sometimes be the most powerful, perhaps because they're also the most digestible. And you say you're simple-minded because you can't produce complex content. What are you kidding me? That's the best mode to be in to produce content, because you can understand the average man a lot better than me, because I've delved into it too much. I've embraced the identity. Now that's why I have to take a step back once in a while to understand that identity that I've created for myself, to understand my audience, to reconnect with myself, to make sure I don't go off the deep end, right? And people will notice it too, because they're ordinary people, the people who aren't producing content. You see more than me, and you are not dependent on me. I'm just a fellow guide, just like you. And there's nothing different between us. Nothing. Just because I produce content, just because I put more work into it, doesn't mean a thing. Again, we're tearing down systems that aren't supposed to exist, so I'm putting out videos that shouldn't have to exist. So don't feel morally obligated and say, man, I'm doing nothing. Don't put yourself down. All I want to see, though, is that you're doing something and you're not putting yourself down. Okay, so I'm not saying don't do nothing. Just don't put yourself down, and don't say, well, I'm not doing it. Man, this guy's doing it all, I'm not doing it. That's not going to help you get anywhere. Start stinking doing it. I didn't want to do this recording at first. I was like, man, should I do this? I'm sweating. The weather's hot. I could go outside. I could do something else, right? But instead I said, no, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do this recording. I have my list of notes, and I just go one at a time, right? And so recognition for hard work is reasonable, people do hard work, and they get recognition for it. It's reasonable recognition. But again, should that even exist to begin with? So do better, think bigger, and look at the generations ahead. Compile works together if need be. Look at the future and your contribution. I think this is the most important thing. What are you bringing with you into the next life? Because that is really important. And I'm not to say like it's all about destiny and it's all about image in that regards either, but you do want to leave a good impact on the world ahead. You want to show something of your name, of your works, your impact, to say, I was here, I was part of this process. And it's so important that you do obtain some sort of recognition, whether it's among your friends, family, people online. Do something that's noticeable. Because guess what? The internet is out there forever. This information is timeless. That's amazing, right? And so there's no reason not to produce at least something, whether it's music or art or some form of creativity, right? And again, creativity sort of just improvising, taking what already exists and turning into different forms. So compiling is all we can ever do. When I make this video, I'm compiling thoughts, compiling words that already existed, otherwise I wouldn't use them, right? It's in my vocabulary. So I don't really care what people think of me, what success I got. I move along, I do my thing. I do what is natural for me to do, as what I see is also natural to do. In the very first place, I try learning, I try experimenting. Very important for innovation, very important for invention, which is something I've always wanted to do, was invent. Well, here I am, I'm already inventing. I say, oh, well, I want to be a teacher. Well, here I am, already teaching. Who's to say it's supposed to be under this circumstance or that circumstance? You can just improve and make it better, and you can make it look like these other forms of teaching and other forms of inventions. Just through time, through your innovation, through your practice, through meeting other people, and things will happen as such. And it has. It has. When I was younger, I would actually remake board games. I would actually write small books of my own. One of them was called The Legends of Lordaeron. It was 100 pages. Of course, I was writing with crayons. I was a kid. But I liked the idea, of having a book, having a story. It was fantasy related. Of course, it was fiction, perhaps. But there's truth in fiction as well. There's a reason why that exists. And I liked the whole idea of it, compiling ideas, improvising, making new ideas. And I did that all the time. Let's combine these games together. And guess what I'm doing now? I actually have written books. Just like everybody else does. Theirs is more popular than mine. Doesn't change a stinking thing. Right? Oh, these people are doing a job, they make money, and I'm not. Oh, doesn't change a stinking thing. Guess what? Who's going to have the legacy after their time? Sorry, don't care. I am going to do what must be done, and that is for humanity. That's for the purpose of humanity. It's not about the image, it's not about the ego, it's not about the money, it's not about any of the man-made stuff. It's about nature, because nature is the answer. Thank you very much for watching. This is Corey Angela. Nature is the answer.